In the past 2 years, Google has made significant progress in the smartphone industry. With its Pixel devices, the company recently crossed the 2% market share barrier. Although this doesn't appear to pose a serious threat to Apple and Samsung, the Big G's mobile business is growing. According to boxing commentators, the Asus Zenfone 10 is the underdog in the blue corner. Following the success of the previous model, Asus believed it had hit gold with this small powerful device and released the Zenfone 10 with a few minor changes and improvements. These two don't seem to share much in common at first glance. While the Pixel 7 is neither a true flagship nor particularly small, the Zenfone 10 is competing for the title of compact Android flagship. However, these phones do have some features in common, such as the camera system, Android version, and battery life, which could lead to very similar user experiences. Can the little guy compete with the Pixel 7? And which of these Android creations ought you pick? We're going to learn today. With the Pixel 6 series, Google made a radical appearance change by adopting a glass sandwich appearance. Since then, the company has been honing this philosophy. However, Google decided to shake things up a bit with a long strip running from side to side on the back of the phone, so it's not your typical glass and aluminum appearance. It is referred to by the company as camera strip. With the Zenfone series, Asus, on the other hand, employs a different appearance philosophy and opts for lightweight and compact instead of shiny. The phone's back is made of matte plastic that has a rubbery papery feel to it. It's a different strategy that produces a different outcome. The Pixel 7 has a larger screen than the Zenfone 10, which keeps things under the 6-inch limit. The Zenfone 10 is significantly lighter than the Pixel 7, and that's not just due to materials. Speaking of displays, one of the key distinctions between the two gadgets is this. The Zenfone 10's 5.9-inch Samsung Made AMOLED can refresh at up to 144 Hz, while the Pixel 9's 6.3-inch display is limited to 90 Hz. Although the Pixel panel is slightly brighter, both displays are quite color accurate. The two phones have the exact same resolution 1080 by 2400 pixels, but the density is slightly lower 418 versus 446 ppi due to the larger display of each pixel. Actually, both displays are clear and the image is sufficiently sharp. Both phones have face unlock, but it's less secure because it's not the advanced 3D version that Apple uses. Having said that, both the Zenfone 10 and the Pixel 7 respond quickly to this feature. The Zenfone 10 Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 and the Pixel 7 2nd generation Tensor still perform differently in terms of performance. The results are listed in detail in the table below. Synthetic benchmarks don't always tell the whole story, but the Zenfone 10, which has more raw power, should operate more smoothly. Both phones begin with 8 and 128 gigs memory configurations for RAM and onboard storage, and neither has a micro SD card slot. Both devices came pre-installed with Android 13, but the Pixel has a slight edge in terms of software support. The Pixel 7 will ship with Android 16, while the Zenfone software update cycle will conclude with Android 15. This is because Google has promised 3 major Android updates. The Pixel 7 and Zenfone 10 are more comparable than you might think in terms of software experience. To improve your daily life with the device, Asus offers the option to return to the stock Android experience with a few minor tweaks. On the other hand, the Pixel 7 couldn't be more stock, and on top of that, it will be the first to receive new software updates. Both the Zenfone 10 and the Pixel 7 only have 2 cameras and don't have a separate telephoto lens. According to the specs, both have main cameras with 50-megapixel sensors, similar apertures, and the same focal lengths. But let's not overlook the fact that Google has been honing computational photography since the release of the first Pixel smartphones. These two have very similar battery capacities, at least on paper. The Pixel 7 has a 4355 mAh battery, but the Tensor was created using 5nm technology and falls short of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 in terms of efficiency. The Zenfone 10 has the same 4300 mAh battery as its predecessor, but it has a more efficient chipset. The picture painted by our battery benchmarks is intriguing. The Zenfone 10 destroys the Pixel 7 when it comes to browsing, but the YouTube and gaming tests produced comparable results. Both phones will operate for a full day in practical situations, but the Zenfone 10 can easily last 2 days if you don't put too much strain on it. Even though the Zenfone 10 appears to have an advantage on paper, the charging situation is also very similar. The Zenfone 10 supports up to 30 watts charging bricks and includes one in the retail box, whereas Google advertises the Pixel 7 as having a 21 watts wired charging capability. In actual use, it takes both phones about 1.5 hours to fully recharge from 0 to 50%. The Zenfone 10 now has wireless charging capabilities with speeds of up to 15 watts, while the Pixel 7 can charge wirelessly at 20 watts, though in practice, the two devices perform similarly. In the end, there are significant differences between the Google Pixel 7 and the Asus Zenfone 10. They differ in terms of their weight and size, the materials used in their construction, and the chipsets they use. So why compare them at all? The actual user experience isn't all that different between the two devices. They both offer a very good Android deal, comparable battery life, comparable camera performance, quick charging, and fluid operation. The cost is what counts in this situation. The Pixel costs $599, while the most recent Snapdragon and some case accoutrements cost an additional $200. What do you think about this comparison? Write your opinion in the comments. Have a nice day and see you soon.